Okay, folks, shall we kick off? Welcome everyone. Thanks for, great. Before we start, mood lighting, you see. Welcome, thank you for coming to the LGI, because it's important that we move this around the Trust, and this is our regular monthly report out. For those of you that haven't been to one of these before, this is where we are able to recognise and celebrate the improvement work that's going on across Leeds teaching hospitals, and we have 3 services reporting out today. And in terms of how we do this, obviously the team come up and report on progress. We'll have, Jimmy, how many minutes each is it?
First 2 are 15 minutes,
yeah.
And 7 minutes for the final one.
Yeah, okay. And all of this work obviously is under the umbrella of the Leeds Improvement Method, but much of this work is already progressing, and we want to make sure we recognise all improvement work as part of these report outs. So with that in mind, without further ado, let's crack on. And our first is the neonatal unit Druggle. So, Hannah.
And the team.
Are you okay? Am I in your way?
No, you're okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to us. My name is Hannah Shaw. I'm one of the consultant neonatologists here within Leeds Teaching Hospitals, and I'm very proud to be the leader of the SAFE project within the Children's Hospital. The SAFE stands for Situational Awareness for Everyone, and it's a Royal College of Paediatrics initiative that was started in 2015. So what does situational awareness mean? Well, it's a very right-on human factors phrase that basically means increasing awareness of everything that's going on in your clinical area, not just what you're doing at the time. And a key part of that is improving communication and thus improving patient safety. The SAFE project's main intervention was the implementation of patient safety huddles, which I know the adult wards have been doing for some time, and that's been one of the things that we've been driving forward in the Children's Hospital. So what does SAFE look like in the Children's Hospital? We're a very wide multidisciplinary team, nominally led by myself. There are other consultants involved, a lot of nursing staff are involved, the resuscitation department are heavily involved, and obviously the fantastic pharmacy team have really embraced this as a project. We were invited to a couple of training days down in London where we learnt a lot about quality improvement methods, a lot about patient safety, and learning a lot about the work of Cincinnati Children's Hospital. A huge part of SAFE has been sharing resources both around the UK and potentially internationally as well. We've learnt a lot about huddles that we're driving forward across the Children's Hospital. The Druggles was an idea that we've stolen from somewhere down south who weren't really making a big deal of it, and we've just taken it and run with it, to be honest. And for the rest of 2017, I'm delighted we've got a leadership fellow working with myself and the team to really drive this work forward. So I'll hand over to Jenny.
So when the idea of the Druggles originally came up, we thought it was definitely something that we wanted to be involved in. But we thought, what do we actually want from the Druggles and how can we make them work for us? So what we wanted to promote sharing medicine safety ideas and encouraging safer prescribing on the neonatal unit. So, and then leading on from that, we wanted to improve communication between pharmacists, nurses and the medics. We wanted to use it as an education platform, so a way of not a long lecture or an education session, but short, sharp bursts of information, refreshers on things that people might have forgotten. We wanted to use it as a way of highlighting areas for improvement, so whether some areas, was there certain themes that were cropping up, and could we use the Druggle as a way of sharing that message and learning from it. also mostly to encourage discussion, so we didn't want it to just be the pharmacist standing at the front and saying we need to do this better, but a way of actually everybody discussing what wasn't maybe working quite so well and how we could improve it. So how do we do the juggle? Thank you. After the safety huddle on a Thursday, we hijack that session and we have about 5 minutes for a pharmacist-led presentation. So the first slide is a hot topic. So as I said, the education platform. So it sort of runs itself. So we get ideas from nursing staff or from medics, and there's something that they've kind of seen and want us to talk about and to give a little bit more information on. Or if we've had an error from a previous week that's highlighted actually we're not quite sure about. So for example, the elephant trial, we used them the following week, we did the hot topic about the elephant trial. And if there's anything going on in medicines management that we want to share, then we'll use the druggle as a way of communicating that as well. So for example, when we had a bit of a rollout of oxygen prescribing, or when we had the issues with the children's DNF as well, so we use the druggle for that. We also have an error of the week, and we've recently moved towards having an excellence of the week as well. So we see what comes up. So it's just a way of I suppose reporting back in real time, so we can learn in real time from what's going on. And it's not a case of the consultants and the senior leadership team discussing datexes 3 months after the event. It's happening. It's what's happened now, and it's to the people who made those errors or could potentially make those errors again in future, and just a way of sharing and learning from them. As I say, we do like to highlight and celebrate good prescribing, because we can all learn from good things that people do too. And we do a weekly prescribing audit, and we show the run chart from that each week, and it just gives that extra incentive to kind of continue to improve as well. So we've got some examples of some slides that we have done in the past. So this is a hot topic about vancomycin prescribing. Vancomycin and gentamicin crop up quite a lot on the neonatal unit with errors. So it was just a highlighting how to prescribe it, how we like it to be done, and also a link to the guidelines as well, so that if people wanted to read further, then they could. And this is an example of an error slide, so you can see that we've highlighted what we thought was prescribed really well, but also what wasn't done quite so well, so that we can share from that. And then this final slide of the druggle is this audit result. So I mean, to me, I'm really proud of this data. I think it shows really well. So when we first started auditing, so we started druggling in November 15, and we started doing the run chart in February 16, so just a year now. You can see the first rotation we were sort of 1 or 2 out of 5, and there is a definite trend upwards. And then when we rotated the doctors, we maintained sort of 3s, 4s, and 5s out of 5s, and I think that's due to the change in the safety culture in the unit.
Sorry, hi, I'm Kat. I'm one of the pharmacists that used to work on neonates, now work in ped medicine. So, as following on from the weekly audit, we also completed a baseline audit on prescribing standards. So that I had the lovely job of going around every single prescribed item on the neonatal unit on one day, which is really lovely, and comparing it against the prescribing standards for the trust. So this was our original data, and as you can see, there was a few kind of niggling errors that we had with regards to allergy statuses and antibiotic prescribing, but the main issues that we found were around cancellations and transcribing of medicines. So that was, going back, that was a total of 90 prescribed items. We repeated that in July 2016, so at the end of the doctor's rotation, and I had to audit 174 items because it was a particularly busy day that day. You can see that we managed throughout the rotation to almost get rid of some of the niggling errors that were occurring. But as well as that, we've reduced the cancellation and transcribing issues, and if you look at it proportionally, we reduced them almost 4-fold, which is fantastic, we think. So what we've learned from the druggles, we just wanted to say, I suppose from a pharmacy point of view, how proud we are to be part of the SAFE project and how much we've enjoyed it. We would love it, we're loving the fact that it's carrying on. The druggles really are a QI project, and they follow the PDSA cycle, so we look at what we want to do, we plan, then we obviously present the druggle, we look at the effect that we're having, and then we can repeat it if we feel that we need to. We feel that we have definitely achieved our aim, and there is a safer culture of prescribing for sure on the neonatal unit, which is fantastic really. communication is key. Targeting the right people. So one of the main things that we wanted to do is make sure that we were getting the message out to the people on the shop floor, as it were. So following on from the huddle was perfect because it was the people that were going to be there on the ground on the day, but as well as that, getting a nice mix of people as well, not just the people, you know, in charge, as it were. We realised that little and often is a winning formula. Apparently from presentations people tend to only remember 5 points, so please remember this. So little and often is a winning formula. You're not overloading people with information, they're short, sharp, and that's what they're designed to be. Reinforces enabling culture by encouraging open discussion and making sure that we anonymise these helps encourage that as well. So what comes next? Really we want to encourage uptake from the rest of the Children's Hospital, but also the adults as well. We've got 6 areas, so 9 wards that already regularly druggle, and I'd just like to highlight that they don't all look the same as the neonatal unit druggle. They're very different in different areas, and one size doesn't fit all, so you can adapt this model to your own service. We're keen for a Children's Hospital-wide druggle to start. We've kind of tried to forge a link with the medicine safety group, the bad drugs group, as they're known, and we've got a particular focus on nursing staff, so the nurses on 10 also deliver their own druggle. It's entirely nursing led, and Vic's going to talk a little bit about the medicine safety group that's formed on neonates. We just want to spread the message really, so we're doing a bit of pharmacy department teaching, but also coming here, it's fantastic to be able to spread the message, so thanks.
So my name's Simon, I'm a trainee advanced nurse practitioner in paediatric oncology, and I just want to talk very briefly about the paediatric oncology experience of the druggle. So we started doing the druggles in November of last year, and we've decided to do them on a Wednesday morning, like Kat says, after the huddle and before the main handover. It is delivered by a pharmacist, and it's audited by the pharmacist, but it's very much MDT input led. So myself and the advanced nurse practitioners and the doctors all have an input on the topics that week. And it's also delivered to the consultant on call that day, and also the nurse in charge and the doctors as well. In oncology, we obviously give a wide range of drugs to at-risk patients that have real potential for side effects and issues. So particular problems have been the antibiotic stewardship and the interaction of drugs with chemotherapy. So it's actually been a very useful addition of highlighting practice within hematology oncology. Just briefly mention the barriers. So the main barriers we found were timing it to reach the maximum number of a large team. So yes, we do it on a Wednesday and we have the main people there, but what we also do is myself and my colleagues will take the druggle out to the other nurses on the staff on the ward floor and just briefly mention it to them so they can see it. And it's also mentioned in the handovers as well, so everyone gets to hear about it. It is including all the members of the MDT, including speech and language and physios as well. We wanted to make sure it wasn't just another delay to patient care, because with the amount of meetings that happen, you want to get out and see the patients and encourage patient care. So it's very brief, as Jenny said, it's very brief, to the point, and then we move on. And also mainly avoiding a blame environment, which has already been alluded to. And the positive impacts on the team, so it is a very consistent learning tool for the team. So it's no blame, but it's also celebrating, and like when we have the doctors moving around, we want to, within oncology we have very specific drugs and very specific ways of doing things, so it's a very good way of teaching them about that in a very structured way. As with the niggling issues, it is a safe environment, learning from the errors, it's all anonymised, no one's getting blamed specifically. And also we have seen a good improvement in antibiotic stewardship and our general prescribing, as I'll allude to on the next slide. And then finally, obviously the main aim is safer care for outpatients, which we very much have seen. And then as you can see here, when we started at the beginning of November, so we are auditing 5 charts, 5 random charts from that week, based on the minimum prescribing standards. We started obviously not very well at 0 for various reasons, but we've actually been as high as 4 out of 5 having no errors at all. So that's a vast improvement on what was happening previously. And then finally, just thought I'd show you some examples of druggles in HEMOC. We've tried to make sure they're not all about chemotherapy. They're about vancomycin, as Jenny said. They're about renal dosing, which is very important, but also about how we give the drugs, so the end-fit syringes and the issues that come with that. And it's trying to make sure that we mix it up all the time, and I think it's a very good way of doing it.
Hi, I'm Vic, and I'm a sister on the neonatal unit and the founder of the Medicine Safety Group on neonates. The nursing druggle was implemented following on from the success of the pharmacy druggle. It was seen that we could empower our nursing staff, which would enable them to feel valued in the decision making and help to lead change. It also allows staff insight into medication errors and to help find ways to prevent and eliminate them. Rather than finding blame, it was about facilitating a culture for shared learning and ultimately improving patient care. It allows us to learn from errors in real time, to look at the errors when they are relevant, to approach members of staff immediately once the error has occurred, and to learn and help prevent them from future occurrence. The Medicine Safety Group was set up. It has 10 members. One of our members of the team is on transitional care, so she is sharing the information with her team. And one of our sisters is due to move to St James's this month, so she will be implementing it across the city. The staff all have varied levels of experience, offer different ideas, and are all deemed approachable by different colleagues within the unit. Some of the staff did have personal experiences of making a drug error, so they felt passionate about joining the team to prevent it from happening in the future. The Medicine Safety Group is still in its infancy, and we still need time for all members of the team to undertake the weekly druggle and audit. The format, however, stays the same. We conduct an audit on a weekly basis, observing 5 drug administrations to different patients, and these results are then documented. We identify any medicine which has been related to an IR1 and what has occurred in the week that we can address. The druggle then takes place at the start of the shift within the staff room. It's 2 to 5 minutes where the information is passed on within a relaxed, comfortable environment, and there is an emphasis on no blame but shared learning. We have a druggle box, it's like a post box, in the staff room where members can identify any issues they wish us to explore. It's an opportunity for everyone's ideas to be heard. To give you an idea of some of the issues which we have already addressed, we had an IR1 where midazolam was wrongly calculated. We've now added a rough guide into the CD book just to help reassure people on the correct volumes they should be likely to be administering. There was also some expired aseptics within the fridge. We've now instigated a key queen who is responsible for the keys for the shift. She has to remove any expired drugs when the new ones are received from pharmacy. These are obviously all very simple changes, but this is our main aim. It's these simple changes that will make the biggest impact and improve patient safety. The weekly run audit was developed to illustrate our compliance to the Medicines Code for administration of medications to patients. We only have 4 weeks of data, there is not yet much to see, and we've had a few teething issues. However, I'm hopeful that as staff become more aware of the checks that they need and should be undertaking, that this will show a dramatic improvement. Staff have all been really positive about the introduction of this team.
So just to highlight some of the successes that we've had with the druggles, and really all of this comes down to Super Jenny and Fantastic Cat for really driving this forward. We were pick of the week on the Academy of Fabulous Stuff at some stage last year, and we went to the world's most surreal award ceremony in its honour. Got third place poster at the Children's Hospital Conference. We've just been published in Infant Magazine, which is the big neonatal journal. Best Innovation at the Neonatal and Paediatric Pharmacists Group in 2016, and the gang have just won a Patient Safety Achievement Award for all of Yorkshire and Humber. So it really is down to Jenny and Kat, all of this success. So really just a thank you to the rest of the SAFE team who've been so encouraging for all this work that we've been doing, for all of the team on 43 and J1, our neonatal units who've really embraced this, to Rachel Smith, one of the senior paediatric pharmacists, and Liz Mellor and the pharmacy risk management team supporting Jenny and Kat and driving this forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Just before you sit down, just a quick photo would be.
Got to come forward a little bit actually, because you're in the light. You've got to like show me
Well done, team. That was really excellent and really encouraging. Now I know there'll probably be questions, but if we can hold those till we've presented the other improvement initiatives, but really good way to kick off. So next up, I think we're sticking with Children's Hospital and looking at the challenge of reducing burden of paper. So the next team want to take the stage.
Yeah.
Right, good afternoon. My name is Neil Robinson. I'm from Informatics. I am the Service Delivery Manager with the responsibility for the order comms or ICE products within LTHT. We're here to talk briefly about paperless reporting, and I've been working closely again with Hannah to try and get paperless reporting working in two of the wards that she's got within her organisation. So, Hannah, would you drive?
Yeah.
Oh, it's as simple as that. So, paperless reporting, we've done it under the banner. You may have seen that photograph before, some of you, but we seem to think that the idea behind paperless reporting falls fully within this. We're trying to get rid of paper out of the trust, and how can we do it? Well, we can try to do it by the use of the Orcom system and processes that Hannah and her team have put into place. So I've got a few slides here to start with, which I'll go through the way that some of the figures that we've got and some of the ways that we can do this kind of stuff, and then later on Hannah will just talk about the experience that she's got within her wards. Orcom's progression within LTHT. We've actually missed some of the dates off there, but not to worry. We started with ICE out in the doctors in GP surgeries about 2012. It was rolled out, thank you, it was rolled out within Leeds Teaching Hospitals about 2013. And in 2016 we're hoping to move on to paper-like using the organs. So what's the problem? It's the problem as I see it. People might see it the other way. But the problem is that within this trust, our pathology labs, our blood sciences people, do over 100,000 pathology tests per month. So that's going through the telepath system and down at the old med school in St James's. Each test can produce several paper reports. And each paper report, we forget about this, each one requires a piece of paper, a printer, the toner to print that print, needs transporting to the ward, it needs a clinician to look at it and sign it, and somebody has to file it in the patient record once it's got there. So that's 100,000 pathology requests a month that we deal with in this trust. Solution? Hopefully we can move paperless. How do we get to the solution? Well, our colleagues in primary care, Leeds GPs, have been paperless for years. They don't receive a bit of paper from us when it comes to blood tests or radiology tests and that. It's all done electronically. Everything's fired out of telepath and Chris, boom, straight down the line into their EPR system, System 1's and EMIS. How do we do it? Well, we stop printing the reports at the lab. Simple. You can make that cut. But to do that, and this is where Hannah will talk, we need to put in place a governance process to get the electronic sign-off of those reports, because we need somebody there to make sure that the information that's coming through is being checked, that we don't have any issues on patient safety. What's the benefit? Patient safety. Clinicians are not waiting for the reports to catch up, for the paper results to catch up with the electronic reports. Time. Ward clerks, Hannah's told me this when we first met, their ward clerk spend up to 90 minutes a day filing paper reports into a patient record that nobody will ever look at because it's been looked at on Ordercoms, PPM Plus, Results Server, Chemobase, Billy. You name the systems, you probably all know more of the systems than I. Money. printing and transport costs are reduced to nil. We're not printing anything out, we haven't got porters shuffling them about, and we haven't got people moving them into a file. What's the current clinical risk? Well, I might have to hammer on some of this, but the report's not actioned in a timely fashion. Could be some confusion with what's come on the results server, and we need a plan to scoop up any missing results that we're not getting for patients. Should we try it? Well, I think we should. Hopefully you will as well. But at the moment we're working in 4 wards across the LGI and St James's. We've also got Dr Sean O'Riordan in L10 and J05, I think it is, doing the same thing as Sam. It's in line with the trust move to Paperline. GPs have said they've been doing this for years. And as well as the 4 wards we've got, we're also getting interest from other areas across the trust, such as rheumatology. Should we not try it? Why should we not try it? Tradition. People like a bit of paper, like to get something to be able to swivel and then put into a file that they can reference back. And an issue that not all of the reports are always filed electronically. So we do have some gaps. We're not saying this is perfect, but it's a way that we can move forward. And then there was another one in there, just to give you that doesn't seem to have come across. For Hannah's 2 wards, L43 and J01, in 2016, there was over 26,000 requests made through the order system. That's for 2 wards, and that included 77,000 individual requests for tests. And just to highlight some of those out, we had over 5,000 full blood counts, 6,500 U&Es, and 230 ultrasounds on hips for the patients in there. Those 26,000 requests generated 49,000 reports out of the various systems that we've got. And doing some very quick back of a fact packet sums, if you took a minute to file one of those reports, it'd take somebody 21 weeks to do that, to file all of those reports. Now you times that out by what it costs for a ward clerk to do that, and you get a significant amount of money in 2 wards. And we worked out as well that that'd be about 20 boxes of A4 paper. Doesn't sound like what 20 boxes of A4 paper. But then times that by 100 if we roll it out to every ward across the trust, you start talking about a lot of money. So that's the dry stuff, hopefully.
Right, so just to put this into context, so the neonatal unit, we're the biggest service in the United Kingdom with about 1,500 admissions a year. So we are, although our patients are very tiny and geographically we're quite tiny, we are a big, big service. But we are also recognised we're very contained. We don't have outliers. Let's be honest, you don't want to find a 24-week or an incubator on the geriatric ward. So we've got the benefit of being contained when we're trying to manage this process, which has to be one of our real big strong points. As Neil has already alluded to, we make a load of requests. We're doing blood tests all the time. We do try and have a culture of responsible requesting. We have a guideline about how often babies should have blood tests, because actually for our patients, it's not just the quantity of tests, it's the amount of blood we're taking. Our babies have 80 mils per kilo of blood. So for my smallest babies, they only have 40 mils of blood in their whole body. And when we're doing a clotting that's 1.5 mils, it doesn't take many messes up of a clotting sample, and we've now got an anemic baby who needs a transfusion. So we're completely bought into the idea of slightly more responsible requesting and responsible reporting. As Neil's already alluded to, it's a lot of reports, it's a lot of ward clerk time. So we realised we needed to move forward with all of this. So our previous process was laborious, delayed and irrelevant. Monday morning grand round started off with the box of results appearing in the middle of the table, everybody begrudgingly taking a file, signing them off, many of them going back weeks and weeks and weeks, and then the poor ward clerk then having to file them. It's incredibly costly, that kind of process of resources and people not listening to handover because we're signing the results. My ward clerks reckoned it was 12 hours a week they were spending. That's 78 days a year that they're spending of working time simply filing our results. So we had a bit of a think about what could we realistically turn off on the neonatal unit. So we decided, because we're a very acute service and we need results now, that we could turn off our biochemistry, because we're looking at it electronically anyway. There's no point a piece of paper arriving a week later. We could turn off haematology, and we could turn off microbiology, because we really need to be on top of our game with microbiology, because our babies are at severe risk of infections. So that's what we've started with, is just turning off those 3 services. So this is our take-up of paperless reporting. We started in June of this year, and the blue line's what's been going on at the General Infirmary. So you can see we started off with only sort of 40% sign-up, and now we're regularly hitting sort of in the high 90s. The red line is what we're doing at our neonatal unit at St James's Hospital, and the green line is what's happening on the surgical newborn part of our neonatal unit. And there we've had a few more teething problems of getting things up and running, but we're nearly there. And although we're not perfect, I would defy anybody to say signing off paper reports was ever perfect, so I think we're still better than we were. So it's not all been plain sailing. We've needed a lot of IT. But what I have learned is if you meet people like Neil and you show some enthusiasm, he can find computers, he can find iPads. So we have quite so with a huge push and actually meeting the right people who then say, well, I can find you a workstation on wheels if you want to go with this. Brilliant. So we've now probably just about got enough IT on the unit to do this effectively. Our surgical colleagues are a little bit harder to engage, but bless them, for them they aren't based on the neonatal unit, they're just coming and going. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but they now have their own laptop on wheels to take on their ward round to try and motivate them. And we've still got quite a sticking point with radiology requesting. And the problem with that is the radiology reports come through several days later, which is understandable. We report most of our basic radiology ourselves anyway when we're reviewing lines in the middle of the night. We don't normally wait for a report. And I just need to think through how we mop those up to make sure we don't miss an incidental finding on those x-rays. So our aims for 2017 really are to work out what we can do to turn off radiology reporting. I've had an interesting discussion with radiology that we may not want the reports, but they may still have to print them and just rip them up and put them in their confidential waste bin. So that needs exploring a little bit. We'd really like to turn off our outpatient radiology, because we request up to 2,000 hip scans every year for outpatients, and that's a massive workload. And again, we're looking at them electronically anyway, so we don't need the paper. So I completely agree, this is definitely the way forward. We're certainly much more efficient on the neonatal unit as a result of it all. Hopefully we're saving some money. We're desperate to get some figures out of people to prove how much money we're saving, and we've really encouraged every ward to invest in this as a way forward. So if you're at all interested, I'm quite happy to talk to people to give you a clinical perspective on it all. Neil, I'm sure, is very happy to talk to give you the brains behind the project, and iPads and workstations on wheels. Thank you very much.
You take it long ones.
Thank you very much, Hannah, Neil. Excellent. I think in that we saw, I think, a glimpse of the future state we need to get to, really, and just the scale. I think it really brought it home to us, the scale of the opportunity and indeed the current waste in terms of use of paper and the benefits of technology. So really good. Great. Okay. And again, I'm sure colleagues will have some questions and thoughts about that we can pick up. After we've heard from our third report out, which is a continuation of the great work that's going on at Chapel Allerton in terms of the Leeds Improvement Method, RPIW 4 we're up to on early mobilisation. So Mark, Sheila, over to you.
Right, well, hello, my name's Andrew Lindley, I'm a consultant at NESTIS. It's always a pleasure to speak after Hannah, and why are you not part of our team as well? You seem to be involved in all these bits. Right, so from I don't know what you know about the other work streams. At Chapel Allerton, I've been a consultant now for 12 years, and most of my consultant work has been a day a week up at Chapel Allerton. And doing elective hips and knees lends itself really well to a sort of process, because it's very repetitive, it's very defined in terms of work. So the point that we're up to now, and what we were looking at, is the patient journey, pretty much from the end of surgery, going through into recovery and getting up and getting mobilised. There's been lots of work historically done on enhanced recovery work, and we were very much looking at early mobilisation. So very multidisciplinary team members are all involved in getting the patients up on the feet as soon as possible. So there's some anaesthetic input, there's some surgical input, physios, OT, and then the recovery staff as well. So we looked at all the elements of that and tried to flip through in terms of elements that we could look at, improve on, all trying to enhance the patient's experience and what they were looking for. So we can just, you can see here a number of the reasons why we found that certainly on certain days, certain surgeons, certain anaesthetists, certain other team members were able to get patients up on the day of surgery. So they have the primary arthroplasty, so they have a knee replacement done. By the afternoon they're up, getting mobilised, and that's on the path. That's where they're going to get the improvement. That's how they're going to get the best benefit from early mobilisation and getting that full range of movement back. Okay, so, and it doesn't happen on another day. So what we looked at here is quite a busy slide, but there was lots of measurements that we've done here. The key here is that we're not at 30 days yet, because it was only done a month. We're not quite into a month. So lots of the things that we have measured right at the start, we haven't gone back. We haven't had that opportunity to go back at 30 days and measures. But it's all about standardising the process, everybody buying in to knowing what's happening with patients at specific points in time, and trying to reduce that and that level of variation, and trying to everybody work towards getting the patients mobilising as soon as possible. Okay, so we've got some slides. We've got a slide now looking at trying to reduce some of the duplication of work, trying to get patients into the second stage recovery to try and get them in the best place to get up and get mobilising as soon as possible. I think we've got a couple of slides here which I'm going to hand over to Emma to talk through.
Okay, so during the last 3 weeks, following the RPIW, we have come across many challenges. Some of the improvements that were made did cause a little confusion on the unit, especially with the red and green card system. We've since decided that rather than patients going through onto the ward with the cards at the bottom of the beds, we would take the cards out when they're actually leaving the recovery unit, because it was causing a little bit of confusion to the ward staff. The other thing that we have found is it has been a little bit hit and miss. We wanted patients obviously to come out with the red or green cards, which would indicate to us whether the patient, if the green card came out, the patient was okay for us to get them up and they would be fully weight bearing, and also to hopefully get the surgeons and team to send both slipper socks out rather than sending just one sock out, and then we have to then look for either another pair of socks or route around for that. So it is a bit hit and miss, and some days are better than others. We have continued obviously to have a designated bed space for all of these patients on recovery, which makes it a lot easier for ourselves as physios to locate the patients, and obviously for them to be able to get to the toilet, which is much closer to where they're located. And feedback has been very positive from everybody on the unit, nursing staff, medical team, regarding the colour coding system that we set up, which is going to eventually be put onto a magnetic whiteboard, and everybody obviously knows that whether the patient has been mobilised, is waiting to be mobilised, or could not be mobilised for whatever reason. We always place Zimmer frames at the end of the patient's beds, so that everything is set up ready for our treatment, and obviously that's a visual clue for the patients that they will be mobilising shortly after their surgery. And since we have counted our step count, and that has been maintained at the 65 steps that we looked at during the week.
So I'll just mention the newspaper. The newspaper is the way that the team after the RPIW capture their to-do list, if you like, and what they need to achieve that couldn't quite be done in the week. So you can see that there's various items on there, various stages of completion. And one of the things that I think Mark can speak about in a moment is the way that we try and embed standard work into these. So we've set ourselves these tasks to do, but we also want to be able to share quite clearly about how other people are going to do them who haven't been involved in this. How do we share? And there's been a real theme with the other things we've heard today about that key to communicating. How do people know what we've done that's worked, and how can we ask them to do that themselves? So the newspaper gives us that to-do list and who's responsible, but a little bit beyond that, it also asks us and challenges us to provide the evidence, the standard work for how we've done that, and how the other teams or team members would be able to continue with the new best way of doing things.
Thank you. So this is our fourth project as part of the Virginia Mason Leeds Improvement Method work, and I think we've come to the end of our planned projects, although we're hoping to do some more, and it's probably worth reflecting back on some of the stuff that we've learned in that time. We've been doing it for 12 months. First of all, there's no question that as you do more of these, you gain momentum, it becomes easier to do it, and this last RPIW has generated significant impacts very quickly and very successfully. But there are some things I think that we can learn. The first is that, as Jimmy was just alluding to, is that if we look at the other improvement projects going on in the Trust, the deteriorating patient, the druggles, the patients, the surgical safety work, it all involves groups of clinicians coming together to talk about what they're going to do. And it's all about communication. If you look at the deteriorating patient, there are wards that haven't had falls for 200 days. And simply by introducing a patient safety huddle. And one of the challenges we've had with this style of work is getting the communication between the multidisciplinary teams in place, both during and after the RPIWs. And I think that's something we've really got to think about, how we get embedded into the new way of the Leeds Improvement Method. And in a way, I think we've learned a lot from Virginia Mason, but it may be time that we start customizing it for Leeds rather than a slavish adherence to their model, because it's a different environment, it's a different hospital, we have different resource, and we need to start thinking about taking the best from all sorts of different improvement methods and introducing it. On the last one, because we've had such an impact in what goes on in theatres and recovery, the ward, we completely forgot about the ward really, and there's been a bit of pushback and a bit of, what the hell's going on? We're receiving all these patients. And again, that's simply about communication, getting together to talk about it. And we need to really embed that in how we go about and plan the work after the really resource-intensive RPIW week. So that's really important. And I think that goes to the same thing. And the second really key thing is, which I would ask you, you've seen some different types of measurement in the last 40 minutes. And we've seen some run charts which are very easy to see and go, wow, that's made a difference. And then we've seen some other methods of measurement and presentation which I'm not sure have quite the impact. And I think we need to really think about how we measure things in the Leeds Improvement Method and use them to both spread changes, sustain changes, and also to make sure that what we're doing is actually an improvement, not just a change. We sort of set aims and we say we're going to change this, but we need to be really clear that it's an improvement, and that's about measuring over time and reflecting and presenting it over time, not just saying we've sort of completed this thing that we assumed was going to make things better. So I think there are two things there. I think communication around teams and setting up that early in any of the Leeds Improvement Method projects, and I think we've struggled with that in all of our RPIWs, and measuring things in a way that we can put up and say, look at that, it's an improvement, which I'm not sure we've quite mastered amongst the current sort of the new way of doing things, and I think that needs really working on. But our team, there's no question in Chapel Allerton, the culture has changed very quickly. In the first RPIW, we had people sort of going, what's this, what's going on? We've now got people volunteering to do things, we've got some ideas emerging, we've got teams that are actually receptive to changes and implementing them very quickly, and there has been a change. And I think if we can master those two issues, we're going to make some real progress. So I'd like to congratulate this team, because they've clearly been very successful. They've implemented a lot of changes very quickly, and apparently they seem to be for the better, but we need to see the data coming through in the next few weeks.
Well done. Thanks very much, and Andrew. That's great. And Mark, I think really good to see the way in which Team Chapel Allerton kind of the way you've gathered that momentum and move into the RPIWs with such sort of ease and speed and kind of because you've worked through a lot of the novelty of it, and now but I do think your points, Mark, about measurement are crucial, and we are learning this as a guiding team when we look at the improvement work. How are we able to track this back? And I think there's some good points from some of the earlier presentations we saw, Hannah, from some of the work you've been doing about how we track that, and I think we can make this our own in terms of the Leeds improvement method. Indeed, only earlier today found out that we were showing off a TAVI case in cardiology and beaming it to Seattle for them to learn from us. So this cuts both ways. So I think there's definitely something in that, and I know you wrote a thoughtful piece on this, Mark, so I think there's plenty of us to learn from what we've done so far, because let's remember it took Virginia Mason 10 to 15 years to do this. We've been at this a year, and look how much we've already got done, and I'm delighted to see the level of engagement from clinical colleagues in this, because this is where it really does make a difference. So we have got time for questions, comments, anything you want to ask any of the teams that have presented. So remember, we had the team presenting on the Druggle, we had the paperless in Leeds Children's Hospital in neonates, and we had the Chapel Allerton team on early mobilisation. So over to you. Opportunity for collective learning, challenge, conversation.
Can I ask a question about the papers project? So I manage gastroenterology.
Do you want to say?
No. Sorry.
Hello, my name is.
Sorry, how rude. Call me back, John.
Yeah.
So hello, my name's Matt. I'm the service manager for gastroenterology, renal hepatology, and endoscopy. We've just moved towards paperless triage in gastro, which is obviously a substantially different environment to the kind of immediacy of neonatal. And I think it's fair to say it's not been wholly successful, and there has been the smallest amount of resistance from consultant colleagues, largely because of the systems and the time it takes versus what they feel is a very easy system as an end user to flick through paper and turn it off. Did you encounter any of those issues when you were doing that in neonatal? Was not all that kind of surmounted by the fact that it is a much more immediate environment?
I think some of it's because it was an immediate environment, and we were looking at the results anyway, just saying to the guys, if you're looking at the result of the full block out, just click the action button on the top of the screen. It's not difficult. There is, however, some, well, the IT's not working again, which actually, in all fairness, for some of the ways, you just turn it off, you count to 10, you turn it back on again, and it works. I'm not technical whatsoever, and if I can make it work, any numpty can be bring it on it. So there was a lot of, we've got no iPads again, we've got no this again. But actually, with enough pushing back and saying, we have, I bet they're all in the storeroom in surgery. Oh yeah, how do they get there? But actually now we have much more of a culture that the iPads or the WOWs are on every ward round, and there's just a constant sort of nudging, just sign off the results when we're there. And also buy-in from the junior staff by saying, if we sign them all off electronically, you don't need to then write them on a scrap of paper, walk to the baby's incubator, write them in their personal folder there. Think of the time you're saving. And actually as a trainee, that's one of their absolutely thankless tasks. So I've got buy-in from the junior staff because they can just see it as a quick win. The consultants have been a little bit more, I like seeing my flow chart written out. Well, you can get that on the screen. And they've got no answer for that, so we're getting it.
Thank you.
So as CD for the Children's Hospital, I'm very proud of the Children's Hospital. And I think it's really great how it's MDT, it's lots of different professionals coming together. The initiators aren't always senior people coming from the ground, and they're projects that are sustainable. They're not just petered out after a few enthusiasts have given up steam. So really impressed and really grateful, and glad that the report out in the LGI as well. The question is, how do we multiply the places? So why can't we do what is on neonates in terms of paperless everywhere else? Druggles are already around the Children's Hospital, which is great. So I think it's amplifying the initial project and making it more extensive around the whole Children's Hospital and LTHT. But yeah, inspiring stuff as well.
And let me pick you up on that, Mike, as an opportunity to reinforce the message that we want to accelerate and spread all of this improvement work. We've been cautioned so far by our executive sensei from Virginia Mason about pace, because the danger is if you try to do it too quickly, it's superficial and you don't achieve the depth of change. However, I think we feel we're in a position now where collectively we've got some momentum and a sense of what we're about with this work. So we will be having the event on the 28th of March, where we're inviting 600 colleagues to join us down at the bridge to talk about exactly that. How do we replicate what we know is working? How do we take it forward? How do we spread this across Leeds teaching hospitals? And the other thing we are attempting to do is to change the narrative on CIPs, the annual, to turn that into sort of waste reduction, because I think colleagues get that in terms of there's lots of things we do that are wasteful processes, as we have seen, that can save us lots of money and resource, but at the same time improve the processes for patients. That's where we must try to get to. So it's a really good point, and it's one that I know you're keen to develop, certainly in Leeds Children's Hospital. And of course, remember, we need to do this if we're going to make real all the exciting plans we have for the future in terms of this site particularly. So those are the things that I think will make this happen. Any other questions for any of the teams, or any observations or reflections? James?
Hi, my name's James Goodyear, I work in Trust HQ. Just a comment really, all the presentations were absolutely fantastic and really powerful, and I was particularly struck by the example you used, Hannah, about some of the smallest babies only having 40 mils of blood, and the need to get tests, request tests responsibly and get it right first time, I guess, and it was just a really powerful illustration of why this is important, and also maybe I was then reflecting on that with Mark's comments about how we communicate this work to demonstrate the impact and the importance for patients. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Any final comments or questions or observations before we draw to a close? No? Okay, well, it just remains for me to thank all of you who came today, but particularly those of you that stood up here and shared with us the great work that you're doing. Thank you to you all for that, and keep going, because this is really, really important, and it is making a difference. We know it is. And please come along to future report outs, because there are lots of your colleagues in other parts of the Trust running improvement projects as part of the Leeds improvement method, and in terms of improvement across a whole range of things, which we want to share and we want to gain further insights to learn as we go. And that's the crucial bit of this is learning how do we improve and develop as we move forward. All right. Could I just ask those of you that have presented just to stick behind for just a couple of minutes? That would be great. All right. Thanks very much, everyone.